Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Autodesk Virtual Academy, brought to you by KETIV Technologies. I'm Nigel Mbayak, application engineer here at KETIV Technologies, and I'm joined by Brian Mongkolpoonsuk. How's it going, Brian?
Good. How are you, Nigel?
Good. Hopefully I pronounced your last name right. I know
Yep.
It's really long. So, awesome. So Brian's one of our customer success managers here at KETIV. His main role is to make sure that, certain of our customers are leveraging the most out of their tools, getting the right resources when needed, so on and so forth, and everything's running smoothly. You guys aren't, wasting time worrying about making sure the products work, but, spending all of your time doing awesome stuff like innovating your products or getting things out the door faster. So today we're going to be going over rendering in Inventor. And I know the word rendering is used for a lot of different things, but specifically for today's webcast, right, we're talking about creating, I guess you could say, what would the word be in this case? Material, right? Collateral is used a lot of times when we're talking about renderings, to be able to create some collateral for people maybe outside of engineering to leverage, because, a lot of times people in maybe the marketing department or the sales department need, visualizations of the product to be able to, market it and sell it. And those people generally don't have access to things like Inventor to go ahead and look at part and assembly files. So people in the engineering side or design side need to create things for those people to look at. And Inventor, right, there's some built-in tools to do that. I know for those of you who do have things like the product design and manufacturing collection or some of the older suites before have access to stuff like 3ds Max, which is one of Autodesk's high-powered renderers or rendering tools. Sometimes, people are a little bit cautious in regards to going into something like that, right? There's a lot of things going on in a product like Max that people think the learning curve is really high. But we want to alleviate some of that stigma. And, for those of you who are just comfortable in the Inventor environment, we want to be able to show you that, hey, there's some stuff Brian's going to go over today that you can start leveraging today to make sure you get some of this marketing and sales material out, improve processes that way. And then we'll share with you some customer stories as well. Things that we've done for some of our customers to make sure that, hey, let's go ahead and create some of this material for you so that your sales teams can, ultimately make more deals. With that, I think I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Brian. But if anyone does have any questions moving forward, please type them into the chat panel, and we'll make sure to answer them as needed. So, Brian, take it away.
Thank you very much, Nigel. So if you guys have seen some of my webinars and presentations in the past, especially from the AVA Fusion Fridays, you know that I like to start off each of mine with a purpose or why we do things here at KETIV and why we're doing this webinar. First reason is, like Nigel was saying, you want to create that collateral with rendering. You want to create that high quality image, that realistic looking image of your model to send to your customers. And this will help you to get a good first impression. And if they've been a long-lasting customer of yours already, then it shows that you aren't afraid to tackle these new technology that's out there. You aren't afraid to improve the designs of your model. Instead of, I've seen in the past, people taking screenshots of their 3D model in just the regular environment. I don't understand why, if they already have the knowledge, they can actually send this to the view environment or the rendering workspace, if you may, and then create something like this to send to the customer instead. And it'll only take them up to like about an hour after designing and changing the scene settings and things like that and adding material to create a rendering like this. Number two is to add a sleek new look to your website. Once again, I help customers with models, and when I take a look at their website, it looks like it's something from the early 2000s, and it's something I really wish people can spend just a little bit of time, like we will today, just do a quick render of your model to have something that you can pull out to the marketing team, or if you do the marketing yourself, then you can upload this to your own website, and it'll be something that would once again leave that good first impression or leave that more professionalism to your work environment, to your team, to your company. It'll positively impact your company as a whole there. And number three is to gain a clear perspective of your model before you actually manufacture it. So for instance, if you create the rendering of your model and then you find out, hey, realistically looking at it, I actually don't like maybe the color of this blue on this bike here. So in that sense, if you're especially part of the design team, you might use rendering to this advantage of how it will look like in real life, whether it's the color that you might want to change after a rendering, or whether it's something like the material, like if the plastic didn't look good, maybe you could try some carbon fiber on it or something like that. So it helps you to proactively see what it would look like before the end result. And also another thing to add to rendering, one of a customer recently, they were just explaining to me how they didn't know about the rendering features inside of Inventor, and they would actually have their product be made. They would pay a professional photographer $45,000 to take a lot of different pictures of the model, and then finally he would get sent the pictures. Whereas here inside of Inventor's view environment, you're able to create these renderings within an hour rather than weeks of waiting for the part to be, or even months for waiting for the part to be manufactured and then waiting for it to be taken real pictures of in real life. So with those purposes, leads on to these goals here. We have 3 of them. Number 1 is I will be showing you guys how to position your model, add appearances to it, and adjust the background scenes and the lightings to your model for the rendering. Number 2, we'll be creating a high quality image of your 3D model using what we call ray tracing. Now, ray tracing is an algorithm that some computer scientists or computer software engineers created to show the reflectance of what it would look like in real life. And what I mean by that is, if you could imagine some glass and plastic material as a part of a model, the light source that would go into that would bounce off the glass, part of it would go through the glass, and it would go and bounce onto the plastic. And then the light off the plastic will bounce back onto the glass. Then the light that bounces back onto the glass would bounce back to the plastic, etc., etc. And that's essentially what ray tracing is in a nutshell. It's the realistic handlement of the lighting that occurs in the algorithms of ray tracing. And number 3 is I'm going to show you how to produce a 3D shareable link that you can send to a customer. This is the same feature that we showed in our what's new in Inventor 2019. So if you have Inventor 2019, this is something you can use. Not particularly rendering per se, but since we're on the topic of interfacing with our customers, I think this is really valuable to share with you guys again, of how you can show your customers not only a 2D high quality image of your model, but a 3D rotatable link that they don't need any Autodesk products to view. So if you guys are familiar with Inventor, you might have come across what is called Inventor Studio. Now, Inventor Studio is located in the Environments tab inside of Inventor, and you are able to create high quality images of your model as well as animation to your model. So whether that is the camera movement, whether your model is actually moving itself, whether the lights of maybe the bike's light in the front of it might be flickering on and off, you have that capability inside of Inventor Studio. But what 90% of you guys came here to see today is the 2D high quality image and setting the scene a 2D background for that. So if you guys want to see more of the animation parts of the Inventor Studio, leave that in the comment section in the GoToWebinar, and then we could maybe have that in the future. But for today, we'll be focusing on the visual styles portion of the rendering. So once again, a reminder to ask those questions. We'll try to save them till the end. And yeah, it helps us to know if there's another person there on the other line that we can help teach you guys rendering here. So here we are in the Inventor environment. I have this bike that I grabbed off grabcad.com, and this is what you typically see after the modeling process. You have your browser history here, and you also have this grayish kind of background. Once you are ready to render, all you need to do is go over here to View. And then the first tool we will go over here is the Visual Style tool. And if I do a drop down, we have a bunch of different options. Right now it's in the shaded mode. But if we want to, for some instance, if a marketing guru got a hold of this and they saw watercolor, they might choose the watercolor mode. And this is definitely not something us engineers are used to. It's something more aesthetically pleasing rather than maybe more geometrically and parametric and boxy that we're used to with the shaded with edges mode. You can also view like a technical illustration mode. You can see a wireframe mode as well. I'm going to show you guys one more here, which is the monochrome mode. If you want to go retro, you can see it in the black and white visualization there. But for today, we'll be choosing the realistic mode for this bike, and it'll give us a realistic look. And it automatically turned on ray tracing for us with this window at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. I'm going to go ahead and disable that for now. So pretty much with realistic mode, what appears as an option for us now is the ray tracing capability. And this is essentially what the rendering is all about. So with the ray tracing, like I said, it's the algorithm that makes the lighting look realistic. And if we click on that, it'll give us the appearance of this window at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, which gives us the ability to have a low accuracy or a low quality rendering. We can do a medium one or a draft, as well as a high quality rendering. And essentially what you see here on the screen, and the longer you wait for the rendering to be created, is essentially what will be a picture that you can save as a PNG, JPEG, a BMP, and send that to a customer or have that internally as well. And if you could hear, I don't know if you guys can hear on the audio here, but my computer fan is turning on a little bit. It's working a little bit, and that's usually the case for rendering. So don't be scared of that if you hear that on your computer. So before we get to rendering this image, I actually want to just play around with the scenes a little bit, because I might not want this scene in the background to be maybe this dark sky blue here. So one way to change that, if you want it to be maybe a white background, is we can go here to File, and then Options. And then you have the ability to change it to, let's say, a presentation mode under the Colors tab here. If I hit Apply, you can kind of see that gives us more of a grayish white background. And it's based off the background image here. So it's still not giving us that white color. If we do want that white color, we can change it here to one color and hit Apply. And now we have a clean white background for us. And you are able to bring in your own custom 2D images here. You can just search for it. Or we have a lot of other defaulted backgrounds as well. So we'll go ahead and stick with the white color just for now. And now we change the background to white. So next, let's talk about the shadows. So shadows is located here, and we turn on all shadows. We can start to see the ground shadow of the vehicle, the object shadows, as well as any ambient local shadows that occurred. And if you want to as well, you can turn on the reflections of the bottom. So if it's like a glossy, smooth surface, you can see that with reflections. And lastly, we have our screen settings, or I mean our lighting style. This might give us the ability to see the reflections just a little bit more. Right now, there are two lights shining on this model. We could turn on one light, and there we go. Now we can see the reflection of that. If I turn on maybe to one of these more scenic settings, like let's say the Desert Dawn Road, we can actually see that the vehicle is inside this 360-degree view here. And if you can kind of tell here, it's floating over thin air. So we can go ahead and change that by going over here to ground plane. But before I do that, I'm going to change it to maybe a warehouse setting so we can maybe better see how far off it is from the ground. There we go. This is a little bit easier to see the tires because it's not black on black. So now, like I said, it's floating off the ground. That might be like a little bit of an ET style bike. So we're going to want to change that or lower that using ground plane here in settings. So we can do an automatic adjustment to the height offset if you know the distance from your ground plane to the tire. In this case, I actually want to do a manual adjustment because what I like to do for these vehicle examples with the tires is I like to make it go into the ground just a little bit like a car would look like in real life. Because if you ever seen a tire on the streets, you can see that it's a little bit flat at the bottom just because of the weight of the vehicle. So I'll go ahead and hit apply, and then I'll close that. And next, if we want, let's say this angle of the bike and that part of the background to show, what we want to do is actually locate the view first of our model. And then I'm going to go over here to our lighting settings and go down to settings. And now I can use this rotation tool to rotate that into position, rotate the background into position in respect to the model there. And if you want to adjust the size of the bike, you can here, as well as the exposure of the background. And if you do want that white plain background, but if you want the reflection of the bike or of this environment onto this bike, you can go ahead and turn off display scene setting. So you still get the lighting of the warehouse, but you get the background of the white background there. Also, in addition, we can adjust the lighting. So if I turn on light 1 here, I have the ability to place this light in respect to either the camera or the view cube. In this case, I can choose the view cube. So however the view cube is oriented, the lighting will shine onto the model as if it was a view cube. So this allows us to adjust how high the lighting is. So this would be the light more in the sky, and then this would be the light more at a parallel level with the bike, and then this would be a lighting coming maybe more from below it. So I'm going to do it maybe at around a 30 value, because that's what the lighting looks like here in the warehouse. Then I'm also going to adjust this lighting here. So this one allows you to see the lighting if it was on the left side of the view cube, and then this is like as if you're rotating the view cube on a turntable, and this is all the way on the other side. And if you want to see this a little bit more clearly, what we're going to do here is hop quickly to the Shadows tab, and we'll link the shadow to our light source, our light 1. So now if I go back here, you can see the shadow move. And this might be an easier way to see how you want to position the light source. So I'm going to position it in this angle because it looks like the light's coming from right to left. That's how it's going to look down below here. And then also brightness. I like to leave these as default, but if you want the warehouse to be a little bit brighter than it looks like in here, you can definitely drag to increase the brightness as well as the ambience of the lighting in the room there. So once I'm happy with what I have here, I'll go ahead and hit save. And then let's go over to the next topic here. It's going to be the difference between perspective and orthographic. So orthographic is no matter how you view the model, it's going to look the same. It's just if you pan up, it's going to just be below there on the bottom for you. But if you pan down, it'll be the same looking image. So this is not realistic in a sense. This is more for something of ease when you 3D model. So what I recommend when creating renderings like this is turning it to perspective mode, so you get the perspective look as if your eyes were to see it in real life. There's a little bit of description there for you. So now that we have most of our scenes or settings ready to go, we do have textures here. So textures is pretty straightforward. If I zoom into the model, you can see the texture of the seat. Gives us that little rough surface. If I turn the textures off, that texture goes away. So pretty straightforward that you want to leave the textures on to see as much detail as possible. Also, in addition, if we want to change the appearance or the material of one of our components here, let's change the gas tank, for example. We can go over here to the left-hand side where the design history is. And I'm going to go ahead and pick on the gas tank. And now that I did, it made everything else transparent because I left the transparency on. You can always turn that off if you want here under view and appearance. But I like to leave it on so that I know what part I'm focused on. So here on the left-hand side, we have our gas tank. And to change the appearance of it, there's actually one way to do it, but I want to point out that there is a materials option, which changed the material of the model of the part, as well as the appearance option. Now, materials changes the actual material, and it won't change the look of it. So if you change the material, it will affect how much it weighs if you do an assessment on that, and it'll affect the simulations. If you run any static simulations on that, it will behave as if it was the actual material. And right now it looks like it's a steel. So if I change this to, let's say, plastic, I could right click and assign that to the selection. It's not going to change my appearance by any means. It's still going to be that mild steel. However, if I click on that tank again, it says it's plastic now instead of the steel. But if I go over here to this rainbow wheel here to change the appearance, this won't change the material of it at all. It will change just how it looks. So if I go here, maybe I want a gold tank, for instance, and I could right click on the gold that I want and I hit assign to selection. This actually changed the material of my model. I mean the appearance of my model. So it's all looks, not actually physically gold. This is actually the plastic that I set it to just a moment ago here. So once I'm happy with that, I can go ahead and hit return here. Now we have the gold looking gas tank. And once I'm happy with that, everything else looks good to go. I'll go ahead and hit the ray tracing option. And since this is something I'm pretty confident in letting run for 10 to 20 minutes, I'll go ahead and leave it at a high accuracy here, at a high resolution. And you can start to see the image, the ray tracing come together for the image, and it's going to give us a realistic looking model here. I'll go ahead and pause that because we don't want to spend the 10 to 20 minutes for that. And what I want to do is actually show you guys some of the renderings that I've done here already. So here's one with the white background. This one maybe took about 10 minutes. Here's one with the that sunset setting. This one might look a little bit. You can definitely see the reflection of the sunset. That's maybe more of a reddish orange onto the bike, of the metal of the bike here. You can always choose the colors that you want to as well. I didn't show that yet, but you have the ability to change it. Maybe if it's like a blue custom background that you have, and you can apply the blue color to reflect off of the on the metal here. And here's one similar to the one we did, maybe without the gold. And then lastly, here's one of a side angle with less reflectance. Maybe if the surface on the bottom isn't so glossy, isn't so smooth, you would want to stay away from that reflectant material. And also, since we are talking about rendering, I want to show you guys, I want to hand it over to Nigel here to just talk a little bit about what we've done for TRX recently here.
Yeah, so a big part of rendering, right, is that we're creating marketing and sales collateral for other people, whether that's us or you. Just want to talk to everybody about a particular case in which we did create some marketing and sales collateral for TRX. TRX is, if you have been to a gym lately, you know, you might have seen the TRX logo on a lot of the equipment in the gym. They're gym equipment manufacturers and designers, and we worked with them to create 3D representations, high quality 3D representations of their equipment to be spec'd into, you know, new gyms. And, you know, the way that we're bidding on gyms before, where it was that, you know, they're just bidding on placing equipment into gyms. Whereas after we started creating some 3D collateral for them, they started speccing their actual equipment into a 3D space that looked like the actual 3D space this gym was going to be created in. And so they used a lot of our renderings with some of our rendering services in 3ds Max to be able to bid on projects, right? And they won some fairly large projects afterwards. And the big differentiator between them and some of their competitors was they had spec'd what their equipment would look like in a completed gym, as opposed to saying, hey, we're going to put 3 treadmills in this corner, we're going to put 4 over there. You could actually do a walkthrough of the gym with the TRX components in it, which is really, really awesome. So if you want to know more about that, you can find that customer story on our website. That's KETIV.com. And it should be a customer story on the first page, which is really cool. And so, you know, rendering isn't just a marketing tool, right? A lot of people do use it as a sales tool. And TRX has definitely proven that to be able to use, you know, something that an engineer created or a designer created, an inventor, to be able to win more bids and ultimately improve their business. So something really cool that one of our customers has done with some of the packages.
Yeah, definitely. Like Daniel said, this isn't just for engineering, especially rendering. This is definitely branching off into the marketing department and all aspects of your business. So here's the rendering. I paused it, so it's giving us a little bit of that fuzzy look, but let's go ahead and unpause that. So I showed you guys how to set up your scene settings, set up your lightings at a high level here. Just if you guys have any questions at all, please leave it in the comments, like we mentioned, or you can send us an email after. Yeah. And then I also showed you guys how to use the ray tracing and how to create that high quality image. You have in that window, you have the ability to hit that save button when the rendering is finished, maybe after 10-15 minutes once you're happy with that. And then you could export that out as a PNG or a BMP file. Exactly. Yep. So showed you those 2 aspects of the 2 of 3 of our goals. The third goal is to show you how to share a 3D view link of your model. It could be this model right here. We'll go ahead and do that. And like I mentioned, this is what's new in Inventor 2019. So if you go under here to collaborate, and you go here to shared views.
And this is something that's only in 2019. Just be cognizant about that. It's also, I think, in AutoCAD too, which is kind of cool. So cool.
And you have this window here that pops up on the right-hand side that gives you the ability to hit new shared view. You can give it a name, and you can give it the options to maybe hide the properties and the component names. And once you hit shared, Inventor will create a link that links to the cloud that gives you the ability to share this link or view this link on the browser. And this link can be sent to your customers. It can be viewed internally, and it's live for 30 days. And you can always extend the expiration of that date, like by going to the 3 dots here, and you can extend that there. So I can go ahead and copy the link. I can view that in the browser.
Yep, and that's processing. Brian, you know what? It would be really, really cool is if you could just copy that link into chat. That'd be actually kind of cool.
Into the
GoToWebinar chat.
Sure, yeah, definitely. So I did have the link copied, so I can go ahead and share that with you guys over here.
Yeah, it looks like Brian's not clicking anything. He's actually clicking the chat right now.
Oh yeah, you guys hear
And then change this.
the mouse clickers.
Oh, send that to me first.
Okay.
And then I'll send it to everybody because you don't have access right now. Cool.
So yeah, it is processing here in the background. I do have one already here in the browser. So this is essentially what your customer or whoever you send this link to will see, and they'll see this link for that 30 days, like I said, that you can extend on your own here. But they can see a 3D view of their view of your model without having to have any Autodesk products installed whatsoever. All they need to do is paste this in a web browser here, and they have the ability to do all the different maneuverabilities of moving around to see the model. If it's an assembly like this, they have the ability to explode the view as well, and they can view different parts of the model. They don't have to view the whole thing all at the same time.
Yep, you get the whole browser.
Yep, and if you want to make comments, you can make comments to the designer of the model. So if maybe a customer, like maybe Nigel or someone, made a comment right here, I can open up Inventor and I can see that comment inside of Inventor. So that's some of the collaborative ways you can use this tool. Like I said, this isn't rendering per se, but since we're on the topic of leaving that good first impression with the customer and standing amongst from the crowd, this is definitely the way to do that. You can also make comments and markups on the model as well.
It's a really cool way just to share the model, whether it's at its completed state or maybe a a state in which you want approval for something. To be able to get someone the file without them having to have a version of Inventor or some kind of viewer on their computer. So
yeah, definitely super powerful and super instead of trying to explain to the customer what it looks like or give them a 2D view, you can just go ahead and send them this 3D one.
I know we get questions a lot about like the shares and the views, the shared views and things like A360 or Fusion Team or whatever. And I think the most common question I get is the explodes, as to whether or not they're customizable. It just explodes everything. If you want to do like a very specific exploded image, the best way to do that is to go into the Inventor presentation environment to jump in that way.
All right, so that completes our third goal here. Here's our email addresses for you guys if you guys don't have any questions right now and want to reach out to us later. But
cool. I think that's all of the questions we had for today. Again, Brian, thanks for being on with us.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully you took some of the things that we showed today back to your offices and your design workflows to be able to, provide your other business units, right, whether they be marketing or sales or so on, with some collateral they can use to ultimately improve business processes and win more bids and all that fun stuff. So again, thank you all for joining us today for KETIV's Autodesk Virtual Academy. Hope to see you again next week, same time, 10 o'clock on Thursday. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Bye.